Picture this. You walk into a dealership lot with one goal: buy a hybrid SUV. You've narrowed it down to two, the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid and the Honda CR-V Hybrid. Same badge word on the trunk, similar price range, similar size. So you assume the real difference comes down to styling, brand loyalty, and whatever color they have in stock. Then you drive the CR-V first. The throttle answers instantly. It glides through city traffic without a single hint of a traditional gear shift. It genuinely feels like you're driving something closer to an EV. Then you get into the RAV4. The engine is a little more audible under acceleration. It doesn't feel quite as electric. And if that's your only data point, you might walk away thinking Honda simply built the better hybrid. But what if the hybrid that wins the test drive isn't the hybrid that wins the ownership? What if feels more electric and is the better hybrid system are two completely different questions? That's what we're breaking down today. Not just MPG numbers or badge prestige, but the actual engineering, the actual output, the actual scale, and the actual resale data behind these two machines. By the end, you'll know exactly which one deserves to wear the crown and why the answer isn't as simple as either fanbase wants it to be. To understand why these two SUVs feel so different behind the wheel, we first have to look at what each company actually believes an electric motor is supposed to do. 2 ways to build a hybrid. Here's the thing most buyers never realize. Honda and Toyota aren't just building two versions of the same idea. They're solving the same problem with two completely different priorities. Honda built its hybrid system around the electric motor. Toyota built its hybrid system around total coordination. Let's start with Honda's eHEV setup. The 2.0-liter gas engine can spin a generator to make electricity, but for most low and moderate speed driving, it's the electric propulsion motor doing the actual work of turning the wheels. Under the right cruising conditions, usually highway speeds, the engine can lock in and connect directly to the drivetrain to cut down on energy loss. Honda describes this as 3 modes: EV drive, hybrid drive, and engine drive, with that direct engine connection reserved for engine drive. That's why the CR-V feels so electric, because for a huge chunk of your daily driving, an electric motor really is what's propelling you forward. Toyota takes a different route entirely. Instead of the engine and motors taking turns depending on the mode, Toyota links the engine, the traction motor, and the generator together through something called a power split device, a set of planetary gears. There's no traditional gear shifting happening here. A computer is constantly recalculating, in real time, exactly how much power should come from the engine and how much should come from the electric motors. That's the eCVT you hear about. And to be clear, it is nothing like a traditional belt-driven CVT. This planetary power split architecture has been the backbone of Toyota's hybrid system since the very first Prius. So here's the philosophical split in one sentence. Honda designs the driving experience around the electric motor. Toyota designs the engine and the electric motors to behave like one continuously coordinated machine. Which raises the real question: does Toyota's deeper mechanical integration actually make for a better vehicle, or does it just make the system harder for the average driver to notice?
Why Honda feels better. Let's give credit where it's due, because this is where Honda genuinely shines. Step into a CR-V hybrid and the appeal is immediate. The electric motor responds instantly. Power delivery feels linear. City driving feels natural without that disconnected sensation you sometimes get when an engine's RPM and the car's actual speed don't quite match up. The cabin experience for a lot of drivers feels more refined right out of the gate. Let's talk real numbers. The 2026 CR-V Hybrid's electric traction motor produces 181 horsepower and 247 pound-feet of torque, with the gas engine contributing to a combined system output of 204 horsepower total. That's the system number, not the motor alone. And Honda doesn't just win on paper claims, it's held up in independent testing too. In a 2026 comparison test of 4 hybrid SUVs by car and driver, the CR-V hybrid actually finished in first place, edging out the RAV4 hybrid, which came in second. Both SUVs ran roughly the same 0 to 60 time, right around 7.1 seconds, but Honda pulled ahead on ride refinement, cabin quality, and overall polish. And in that same real-world test, the CR-V returned 35 miles per gallon to the RAV4's 34 miles per gallon. So let's be honest about what that means. Toyota does not win every real-world scenario, and anyone who tells you otherwise is cherry-picking the data. What Honda wins here is simple. It makes electrification feel completely natural without asking the driver to think about what the engine is doing underneath them. But a more refined feeling behind the wheel doesn't automatically mean more system horsepower. It doesn't automatically mean a better published fuel economy rating. It doesn't automatically mean stronger resale value or a more expansive hybrid lineup. Honda may win the experience the driver can feel, but the published 2026 numbers reveal something that a single test drive never will.
Where Toyota pulls ahead. This is where the comparison flips, and we're doing it with hard, published data, not unproven claims about long-term durability. Honda's 2026 CR-V hybrid tops out at a combined system output of 204 horsepower, with a best published fuel economy rating of 43 mpg city and 36 mpg highway on the right trim. Now look at the RAV4 hybrid. In front-wheel drive form, it produces 226 horsepower. Step up to all-wheel drive, and that climbs to 236 horsepower. On the fuel economy side, Toyota's own published figures for the FWD model list up to 47 mpg city, 40 mpg highway, and 43 mpg combined, and that's running on the 5th generation of the Toyota hybrid system. A quick and important caveat here: those are the best published manufacturer-estimated numbers, and they depend heavily on trim and drivetrain. Not every RAV4 hits 47 and 40. That's the ceiling, not the average. Still, the headline is real. Toyota no longer forces buyers to choose between horsepower and fuel economy the way hybrids once did. Compared to the CR-V, the RAV4 offers a higher total system output, a higher best published city rating, a higher best published highway rating, and the flexibility of both front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive configurations. Here's the line that matters. Toyota feels more electric, but right now, Toyota extracts more published performance and more published distance out of every gallon. Now, let's stay honest because we already showed you the counter-evidence. Published MPG doesn't guarantee what any individual driver will actually get. In that same car and driver real-world test, Honda actually posted a slightly better result than Toyota. Driving style, tires, trim, temperature, all of it moves the needle. So the claim here isn't Toyota is always more efficient in real life. The accurate claim is that Toyota currently holds the advantage on the published spec sheet, while Honda can absolutely win individual real-world tests. The numbers give Toyota an edge, but the real reason Toyota deserves the bigger crown isn't one MPG figure on a window sticker. It's how far the company has been able to stretch this same hybrid idea across its entire lineup. Toyota's scale advantage. Honda has mastered one excellent hybrid powertrain. Toyota has turned hybrid technology into an entire industrial-scale platform. Toyota's split-power hybrid system traces all the way back to the original Prius in 1997. Nearly 3 decades later, the core principle hasn't changed. Toyota has simply refined and reapplied it across sedans, crossovers, SUVs, and all-wheel drive configurations. The 2026 RAV4 now runs on the 5th generation of that same architecture. And this year, Toyota did something bigger than a spec bump. The entire 2026 RAV4 lineup in the US moved to hybrid or plug-in hybrid only. There is no more gas-only RAV4. To understand how far this technology has already spread, rewind to January 2017. By that point, Toyota had already sold over 10 million hybrid vehicles globally across 34 different hybrid models in more than 90 countries and regions. That's not today's total. That's where Toyota already stood nearly a decade ago, which tells you just how long this system has been proving itself at massive scale. And it's not just about fuel savings anymore. The RAV4 Hybrid's all-wheel drive version uses a dedicated electric motor mounted at the rear axle to create what Toyota calls electronic on-demand AWD. That lets Toyota extend its hybrid architecture into all-wheel drive traction itself, not bolted on as an afterthought, but built into the same electrified system. We're not claiming this setup is inherently more durable than Honda's AWD system. What we can say is this: Toyota has learned to scale the hybrid system far beyond just fuel economy. The electric hardware itself has become part of how the vehicle delivers power and traction. Honda built a hybrid powertrain that drivers immediately fall in love with. Toyota built a hybrid architecture capable of reshaping an entire product lineup.
What ownership reveals. Now let's move past the spec sheet and talk about what actually matters once you own the thing for years. Start with fuel efficiency. Toyota holds the better, best published MPG rating, full stop. But we're not going to hand you a fake 10-year savings number, because that number depends entirely on your annual mileage, your city-to-highway ratio, local gas prices, and whether you're driving FWD or AWD. If we were going to run a hypothetical, we'd call it exactly that, an illustrative scenario, not a guaranteed cost of ownership. Next, the drivetrain architecture itself. Toyota's eCVT skips the traditional CVT belt, skips the traditional torque converter, and skips shifting through a conventional gear-by-gear automatic transmission. Instead, it relies on that planetary power split device working alongside the motor generators. To be clear about what that does and doesn't mean, it does not mean Toyota is immune to failure. It does not mean Honda's system is destined to wear out. What we can accurately say is that Toyota's design reduces its dependence on several conventional automatic transmission components, and that's part of why it's often praised for mechanical simplicity and elegance. And finally, resale value, where the gap is significant. According to current data from IC Cars, the RAV4 Hybrid depreciates by roughly 30.1% over 5 years, while the CR-V Hybrid depreciates by roughly 38.7%, meaning Toyota is currently holding on to about 8.6 percentage points more of its original value. That's IC Cars data specifically, and figures like this shift over time depending on the broader used car market. But let's interpret that correctly. Resale value isn't proof that a Toyota transmission will never fail. It's evidence that right now, used car buyers are collectively willing to put more of their money behind it. A mix of brand trust, demand, supply, and expectations about long-term ownership costs. At this point, this isn't a debate about which system has zero weaknesses. It's about which system wins more of the categories that actually matter once the test drive is over.
Why you might still choose Honda. Before we crown a winner, Honda deserves a real, honest case, because this isn't a video for Toyota fans only. Start with the driving experience itself. The throttle response feels natural. The electric motor plays a starring role in how the car feels to drive, not a supporting one. Transitions between power sources are nearly impossible to detect. In a lot of everyday conditions, it's simply smoother and more refined. Then there's practicality. The CR-V Hybrid consistently earns praise for rear seat space, cargo room, and overall cabin comfort. In fact, IC Cars ranks the CR-V Hybrid at the top of the small hybrid SUV class for maximum cargo space, with 76.5 cubic feet available. And it's backed by independent testing, not just brand loyalty. Car and Driver picked the CR-V Hybrid as the winner of a 2026 comparison test, citing its refinement, value, and comfort as the deciding factors. None of that makes you wrong for choosing Honda. If what matters most to you is cabin space, comfort, the feel of the throttle, and how naturally the electric motor responds in daily traffic, the CR-V hybrid might genuinely be the smarter pick, for you specifically. But choosing the better vehicle for one particular driver isn't the same thing as naming the stronger hybrid system overall. The final scorecard. Let's lay it all out, category by category. EV-like driving feel? Honda. The electric motor is what you feel the most, and it feels immediate. Urban refinement? Honda. Smoother ride, quieter cabin, more polish in daily traffic. Published system horsepower? Toyota. 226 to 236 horsepower versus Honda's 204. Best published fuel economy? Toyota. Higher ceiling numbers even though real-world results can vary. Hybrid architecture breadth? Toyota. The same power split philosophy stretched across multiple models, trims, and an electrified AWD system. Development at scale? Toyota. Millions of hybrids, dozens of models, decades of global deployment. Current resale value? Toyota. The data right now clearly favors the RAV4. Honda wins two categories, and they're the two tied directly to how the car feels the moment you get behind the wheel. Toyota wins the categories with the widest, longest-lasting impact on ownership. We're not handing you a fake 5-2 scoreboard like this is a boxing match. What matters is that Toyota's wins simply cover more ground. The real hybrid king. Let's be fair to Honda one more time before we close this out. Honda is not a loser here in any real sense. It built a hybrid system that's smooth, quick to respond, easy to fall for on day one, and genuinely well-suited to anyone who prioritizes the way a car feels in city traffic. But king of hybrids can't be a title handed out for electric feel alone. That title has to account for horsepower, published fuel efficiency, hybrid architecture, scalability, a track record built at massive scale, and how the market values these vehicles years down the road. Toyota doesn't win because Honda built something bad. Toyota wins because its system delivers a more complete package across nearly every measurable category. Honda has built the hybrid that might impress you more in the first 20 minutes. The electric motor feels immediate, the power delivery is natural, and the CR-V can genuinely be the more refined vehicle in everyday traffic. But the hybrid crown can't be awarded on driving feel alone. The 2026 RAV4 delivers more total system horsepower, stronger best published fuel economy numbers, a hybrid architecture that extends all the way into its all-wheel drive system, decades of development at massive scale, and stronger current resale performance. Honda wins the experience you feel immediately. Toyota wins more of the categories that keep mattering long after the test drive ends. That's why Honda might be the better hybrid for one particular driver, but Toyota remains the real king of hybrids overall. Honda wins the first 20 minutes, Toyota wins what comes after. So now it's your turn. Would you take the CR-V's refinement and that EV-like response every time you hit the gas, or would you take the RAV4's stronger overall hybrid scorecard? Drop your pick in the comments, and if you drive one of these two, tell us if the spec sheet actually matches what you feel behind the wheel, because I guarantee someone in the comments is going to disagree with you. If this kind of no fanboy numbers-first breakdown is what you come here for, hit subscribe, because next up we're settling an even more heated debate, and this time it's not hybrids, it's the two best-selling SUVs in America, going head-to-head, no brand loyalty allowed. You won't want to miss which one actually comes out on top.